This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome into the Triple Option. Royden Ogletree alongside. Royden had a meeting at his actual job last week. So, he said, look, I could come, but I'll get fired. And I was like, I like the place you work, so I won't make you do it.
Well, no, I had to tell them they needed to up my salary because you're paying me so much.
Yeah, exactly. So, listen, you have all the free whatever we can. I got nothing.
Eventually, I'm going to take one of these helmets.
I got nothing. You can have. We have some old credentials of other people who didn't use them. You can have all those.
Yeah, I have plenty of those.
Okay. I mean, but they're not like the one. They're not like
they're
yours.
Not mine.
Because they have somebody else's picture on them. So they're for their collector's items.
Are they?
Who's
on them?
In the deep, dark corners of our website, there's people like, man, I wish I could get my hands on a 2020 Colt Barber all sports credential.
Right.
Yeah. There's only one of them in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right over there.
You can sell it for tens of cents.
Yeah, if that. Just wait until he cures cancer, then you're going to want it.
Right, exactly.
I mean, he's not on that path right now, but I'm not saying he's not ever going to be. Like, he could be sitting around his house right now and go, you know what we should use? Eggplant, and then none of us have cancer. So
I was going to say, that's the Italian way of curing cancer?
Yes. Yeah, we most ills with Italian food we can cure with garlic and olive oil, eggplant, red sauce.
Well, I mean, what was my big fat Greek wedding thing? It was
Windex. We're not too different. Like, you watch that, like that, you could change that movie to My Big Fat Italian Wedding. No different.
No different.
No different.
Okay.
No different at all. Like, just breaking plates. It's the only real difference. That's it. The names are all the same. My family was full of Petes.
Pete's?
Yeah, my dad was Pete. He was short Pete. There's a tall Pete. That's my godfather. There's Pete from Hearn. There's Pete William. There's Pete. Like, there's a lot of Petes. There's Pete Juniors.
Was it literally his name that you called him Pete from Hearn?
I just called him Uncle Pete.
Oh,
but like, when you'd have to talk about, like, if Pete from Hearn wasn't in here, if the four of us were talking, you're all Catalina cousins. And I was like, we went down to Pete's. And they're like, Pete from Hearn.
Which one?
You had to have qualifiers in all of it because that's how it works, So, yeah, there's only two Pauls, or three. There's only three of us. And I'm like, that's why we're going to see Paul. You're like, that's probably me.
And one of them died in Bible times. Years ago. In fact.
No.
This is a sports show.
But yeah, no. Okay. We do small talk before the show. Roy, and I want your opinion on this. A friend of mine just sent me this.
Oh, what?
Garrett, I also want your opinion on this because I feel like this is going to be one of those things where we get harmony from all people.
Okay, I'm down.
Wendy's wants to start Uber-like surge pricing in 2025. So if you've never taken an Uber in a crowded city at 6:10 p.m. on a Thursday, you would know this, but if you get in an Uber and it's during busy times, they throw a little extra money on you. We experienced this in Vegas recently a couple times.
Right.
It was $35 to get to the casino most days, but a couple days it was $56. And we took the same kind of car all the time.
I was going to say, by the way, it's like the mileage doesn't increase at all.
Same route, but we were at surge pricing because for whatever reason at 8:30 a.m. on a Thursday, we're paying more money, more people are going. So, but Wendy's is going to try surge pricing, and they will use digital menu boards to change your burger's price based on overall demand.
What? If you want a Baconator, that's going to cost more or something?
Yeah.
Not for nothing. Maybe this is just all anecdotal evidence of like where we live. When is there a surge?
Yeah, when is there? That's a good point. No, I think this is probably anywhere.
No, is it like two cars? It's like your Baconator went up by $1.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can tell you right now that someone needs to walk into this meeting and say, whatever accountant came up with this plan, Ted, you're fired.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. You're out. This is the stupidest idea in the world. Also, and you bring up the best point in this.
Yeah.
There's like 4 Wendy's here in this town, and we're not very big. Maybe 5.
Yeah.
Like, we have 4 or 5 Wendy's.
In like one good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
For real.
Yeah. But so we have 5 Wendy's that you can go to in this town. And I don't think Wendy's has ever been so busy outside of like 10:30 p.m. when the drunks and stoners are kind of in for it. Or
And look,
1
by the
o'clock
way, just here, it's like it becomes Whataburger. Like, it's not like.
So what in the world are you going to be like, oh, well, this, and they're not like, I like Wendy's. It's good food. I don't mind Wendy's, but I've never thought like I'm so hungry, I would pay $2 more for this Baconator right now.
There's no way in hell I'm going to McDonald's getting the dollar menu.
Yeah.
Screw that.
Which, by the way, isn't a dollar menu anymore, really. But like these fast food restaurants, look, the only reason that you would go to a fast food restaurant now, well, one, groceries are so high. Like, we don't have to get into the economics of inflation and all that here. But like, the only reason you go to a fast food restaurant now, 1 is for convenience, 2 is because it is literally cheaper to do that than to do anything else.
Yeah.
Why are you Why are you surge pricing me for something that I come for the convenience of it?
And then if they're going to go item by item, I'd be like, well, I really wanted to get a Dave's double, but since it's $2 more, I guess I'm going to get this chicken bacon ranch, whatever.
Yeah, it's like, is it going to be the ones that they're trying to hawk on you that like they have like an excess of that they haven't been selling?
Do they lower those?
We haven't been selling the chili, so like, you know, we'll keep that the same, but
yeah.
Baked potatoes are going up.
Listen, there is really no kind of individual treat from a fast food restaurant that I enjoy more than a Frosty. I'll tell you, I love a good Frosty. It's a wonderful thing. It's really the thing that keeps me coming back to Wendy's. And as you can tell by this, like, I'm a discerning fast food client. I have my standards.
Yeah.
But I will forgo a Frosty and then swear my fealty to a Blizzard in a heartbeat.
They don't come out of the cup.
Yeah. So
Frosties,
well,
notoriously will fall out.
Yeah. So again, like, I'll do that. That's just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. That, like, and is there, again, where in America? Like, we have 5 here, and I can't imagine the demand at a Wendy's being that big here. But if I was in Denver or Boston or Miami or like a big city, and I went to a Wendy's and they're like, oh, well, it's kind of busy now, so here's more, I'd be like, well, I mean, there's a Burger King right there.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably what they're getting at, because it's like, if you're in New York, if you stumble across a Wendy's, yes, there's 1,000 of them, but it feels like they're few and far between just because of how dense everything is.
But again, also if you have if you're in a big city and you have just a cascade of options, like, you're really going to be like,
I'll go get a water hot dog for like 30 cents. I'm good.
Yeah, like, I'll just, like, this guy's got falafel right out here. It's better for me anyway. So even if it does come out of a cart, like, let's go. So yeah, I don't know. I don't understand their.
I just don't know when the surge is.
I don't know when the surge.
Is it always going to be at 10:30 at night when people don't look at their bill?
I mean, look, and these things happens when you you put a guy in charge and he's like, you know what we could do? Could make 2 cents extra per restaurant per day if we did this.
Have you heard this?
And then that comes out to this much money, and then that goes to you, Frank, as the CEO of Wendy's, and Frank's like, you know what? Let's do that. Yeah. And then, because Frank actually hasn't eaten at a Wendy's because he has a butler that prepares him.
Private chef in the Hamptons.
Yeah. He doesn't know that.
Never touch that chili.
Yeah. Yeah, he wouldn't do that.
Have you heard the story of the Costco CEO, what he told, or the original founder of Costco told like the CEO about increasing the price of the hot dog?
Yeah.
He said the man, they were losing money on the hot dog, because if you don't know, Costco sells the hot dog for like $1.50. A hot dog and a drink for $1.50.
And look, I'll tell you, it's good.
Yeah, no, we had it the other day. I prefer the pizza, but I digress.
Either way, pizza price doesn't go up either.
The problem was they were losing money on all their food, and the guy wanted to increase the hot dog back, I think like 20 cents, like nothing crazy. And the original owner of Costco said, if you change the price of the hot dog, I'll effing kill you. He said that in a board meeting.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, what? And he's like, I'll kill you, I swear to God. and so they solved the problem by making their own hot dog plant.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah,
it's solutions.
Yeah, there we go. So, I like. Look, the reason last Christmas Southwest had that crash is because when Herb Kelleher died, there was no one in the way to stop all the things he'd been like, nah, that's just a cheap way to make a quick buck. And so like they just listed off all these things that like he wouldn't let them do because they were terrible ideas and they were only going to save them money in the long term and eventually they were going to make them lose money, like the busiest travel time of the year when your airline cratered for a week and a half. And so the only reason that happened was because there was somebody in the way going, like, look, if we make the chairs this much closer together, then we can get one more chair on every plane. And that's one more person. And then that's $30 billion over at, whatever. And you're like, oh, okay, but everybody's going to be sitting like this. You know, and, Herb Kelleher wouldn't let them do it, but there was nobody in the way, so they just do this. And they're like, hey, how did this happen? Like, oh, we have computers from 2007. They won't take software updates of normal things anymore. So
we're running Windows 98.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it happened. Now, Kyle Visser says steak and shakes are going out of business nationwide because the powers that be refuse to go higher than $3.99 on a combo. Well, you know what? Stand your ground, steak and shake.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll come back around for you.
You'll get there eventually, I swear.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't like it enough to where I'd be like, you know what? Let me go talk to them. I'd be like, well, that's nature. Sometimes.
The only time I have a steak and shake is like if I'm drunk after a Rangers game, because that's the only place that I can find them.
Yeah. That's absolutely. All right, so Royden, last night, Baylor, a nice cushioned victory against TCU. They played sloppy towards the end.
It felt like TCU was Baylor was trying to hold on to a 10-point lead for some reason, like it was the college football playoff. And I know margin of victory kind of plays into like the Ken Pom stuff, but it really felt like TCU didn't want them to have a 10-point victory.
No, and TCU early in the second half of that game, you can tell, Scott Drew said it at halftime, this is two teams that just came off of really tight games on Saturday against really good opponents, and, they're about cash. That's the one thing about Big Monday. You get these kind of cool games, but maybe they don't play out the way that you expect them to because, in the Big 12 especially, TCU played Tech. Was it Tech?
I mean, they're beating the hell out of each other.
Yeah, beating the hell out of each other, and then Baylor plays this overtime game against the best team in the league, number one team in the country, and then they got to turn around with 1 day rest and not as much practice, and all right, go on,
zero scouting again. I mean, they've already played them, but you know what I mean.
But you don't have that same kind of off the schedule, so sometimes the games. And it's the ACC and Big 12 will mostly do this. The games that should be the better ones, and they put them on Big Monday, wind up not being great games because both teams are like, oh, God, I'm tired. Oh, man.
It's just so funny because in the NBA, it's all of a sudden you have to play 4 games in 5 days or something like that.
Well, they hate it.
I know they hate it, but they figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
In the NCAA, if you play more than 2 games in a week, it's just you're killing us, man.
Yeah. Well, it feels like what are the camelback things? They should on Big Monday they should just let them play with water,
Gatorade and water,
running down the court. But
TCU played Cincinnati on Saturday. They actually had a easier path than Baylor, I think, did, but still, I think
you're also I'm probably thinking about they played Tech earlier in the week, and that was just they lost by 1. I think in a knockdown.
Yeah,
game.
They lost by 1 last Tuesday.
Yeah, so they had that big game on Tuesday. Now look, it's almost a week away, but you had Saturday, and again, you're playing in the Big 12. So even though if you have a nice win, it's still hard. Look, Baylor won that game by 8 points last night. They were up by 18, 19.
I think at one point.
18 at one point, but the first half was an absolute slog. Teams the teams are throwing the ball out of bounds all the time, turnovers. There was about 2 minutes left in the first half. There was a Jack's probably going through the photos right now. I promise you there are, like, if he took some photos then, it's just, like, 7 different guys making mistakes, like, on either side.
And that's kind of been the thorn in Baylor's side, too, is early in these games. I tweeted last night, I was like, eventually one of these days, Baylor's going to run away with one of these games in the first half. Like,
well, they've had games where they've had big leads in the first half, and then the second half happens, and they blow it. So
yeah. There is never, for the past, it feels like 3 months, there hasn't been an easy game for Baylor, except for, I think, the West Virginia game. But even that game was close, like a 2-point game going into halftime.
Yeah.
And then they ran away with it. But it hasn't been easy. And I know this is fair of any team not named, who's at the bottom, West Virginia.
Oklahoma State.
But yeah. It's been hard for everybody. I think I'm just looking at it with a different lens because Baylor is right here, obviously.
Yeah.
But it just feels like every game has been a slog, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So tonight in the Big 12, since he's at Houston, and Houston, man, they're just really good. I mean, like I'm going to keep saying it. Like you just watch them, and they're a team that we all knew that they were going to be good in the Big 12, right, Garrett? We knew that. Mm-hmm. But they've even exceeded expectations where you thought there would be some sort of drop-off of, like, not that they wouldn't be good, but, like, it'd be tougher for them.
For the long haul.
It would be tougher for them to look this good this late in the season, especially record-wise. Like, they'd be a team you're like, man, they're really good, but, like, they've taken a few losses. But, man, they just dominate people. I mean, they just do. And they've got, 4 losses on the season right now?
3?
24-3, yeah.
24-3.
Yeah, so they've lost to Iowa State, who's 6th in the country, or 5th or whatever they are. They lost to Kansas, who's number 7, at Allen Fieldhouse, where nobody wins. And they lost at TCU by 1. So, yeah, this is not a team that has seen that. They were about 24-3 at this point last year. I mean, so nothing's changed for them.
Playing an easier schedule, by the way.
Playing an easier schedule. So, like, nothing has missed a beat for the Cougs. And Kelvin Sampson, one of the best coaches in basketball, we knew that already. And they have a pretty favorable schedule down the stretch. And they do end the season with Kansas at home, which is going to be a tough one. But Kansas hasn't been great on the road this year. But Cincinnati, a good OU team, and UCF. And Cincinnati and UCF are kind of like,
they'll fight with you.
But they're treading water on the way out, so like that's where they are right now. And it's going to take a lot for them to probably make the tournament at this point. Maybe one can get hot and get in. Maybe Cincinnati could, but I'm not.
UCF 14-12. I think
they're kind of like
they're heading towards an early grave.
Yeah, they're heading towards that's going to be the kind of the end of the season once they're done in Kansas City. But yeah, the Houston team is just so lethal and.
Which it really sticks in my craw. Just as a Baylor fan in general, I know we have Houston fans on the broadcast, but Baylor fought back just to just make mistakes in overtime, and if you could have taken that game, it really would have solidified sort of where your place is, regardless of how young and how injured that your team is.
Yeah.
It really would have gone a long way. That being said, I mean, Houston also could have just run away with that game in the second half.
Yeah.
They let them back in it. Free throws helped a lot, I know. But I don't know. I think that when it comes down to it, they know how and when to win and close out games, and they did that in that overtime. Baylor's also bad in overtime. But it kind of feels it's their conference to lose now, which is weird to say.
Yeah. And look, don't look now, but Kansas State gets another couple wins down the stretch, and they'll have pulled themselves up out of the hole. Now, they'll be a tournament team. They don't have the kind of depth I think that needs to happen in a great run. But if they can, Jerome Tang proved it again last night, just play an extra frame, and he's going to get you. In a game, though, honestly, last night, they probably did out of fear because they should have never let a 25-point lead disintegrate to going to overtime. But they still won. He's 12-0 in overtime since he got to Kansas State. So they're kind of back in this.
I don't think they get to 20 wins, but the fact that they have an outside chance of just how down the middle of their season was.
Well, yeah, look. they've got, 3 games left. Cincinnati, Kansas. Now that's going to be tough. But
Kansas, Iowa State.
Yeah, and Iowa State. So, look, if they go 8-9 in the conference and get a couple wins, a win or something in Kansas City, I'll put them in a tournament, if I'm on the committee. That's
No, I mean, right now the projections were by Billis and others that the Big 12 was going to get somewhere between 9 and 10 teams in.
yeah.
So that puts them.
Well-
let's do fast math. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, right now,
ahead of Texas.
Right now, Texas is 10th, and they have 3 tough ones down the stretch in Tech, Baylor, and Oklahoma. So look, Texas could find their way, strangely enough, out of this thing. Mm-hmm. I don't think they will. I think they'll probably balance that out and just barely get in. But Texas, they play Tech tonight, and on the road. That's not going to be an easy place to go.
Which, by the way, Tech fans are have made that their crusade. They're all over that game. There were people camping out a week ago, which is weird, but also good on you, I guess.
Yeah.
They're really about that game.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, look, Tech's a very good team under Grant McCaslin. They've got them at home. To go back-to-back Allen Fieldhouse and Texas Tech, when you're playing the way you are right now, man, that's tough. Texas, and they need a get-right game in a hurry. And they don't have a lot of great quad one wins. They got Baylor, they got TCU, but they don't they're not racking it up with man, this is a really great resume. So they need some wins in these last 3 or 4 for them down the stretch.
Tech won by 11 the last time that they played
at Austin. So yeah, this is a team. We can say whatever we want about some of the teams in the Big 12 not maybe being as good as we thought they were. Baylor's kind of more in the middle of the pack than I think a lot of people thought they would be nationally at 15. I think people thought they might be a little bit better. I think people thought Kansas was going to be a little bit better.
BYU's been up and down, but
they're still good,
hanging around.
But yeah, Tech is about where I thought they would be. Kansas State's below where I thought they would be, but of course they lost their best player in midseason to an explanation that we still only have 5% of. He's just gone. Why? Well, we said he is. Well, okay.
Shut up.
How does the coach feel about it? He will not comment, which means he's probably really mad, and that's not Jerome Tang's default position. So one of the happiest dudes on planet Earth, when he's not going to say something about something, he's mad about it.
Did they give any explanation at all?
Not really. I mean,
nothing. There was nothing.
Violation of team ruals, but what
love that
rules?
one.
Yeah, whatever. And the president made the decision.
Really?
Not the athletic director, not the
Tang.
coach.
President, yeah.
The president of the university made the decision, and
That's never a great look.
they just got there too. So this is not someone who's been there for 20 years and is just doing this, has built up a lot of street cred with the fans in Manhattan. This
Right.
is someone who's just new there, and they're like, nope.
They pissed everybody off too.
You guys love 2 things unconditionally, the football and basketball team, and I'm going to make you mad, really mad about one of them. Really mad about one of them. And that's what happened there. So I'm sure Bracket Cat maybe on the chat room knows a little bit more, but yeah, Kansas State has a couple of close losses on the season where, you take those back and you've got kind of a different ball game for them. But I think they're going to get in now. So, but
Out of all those teams that are sort of in the mid-tier, now Kansas kind of finds himself looking up at the top for the first time. Even when Baylor stole a couple from them, they were either tied or
They're right
half
there,
a game below. So
Yeah.
it wasn't but now it kind of feels like I said, it feels like Houston's to lose. Out of these teams that are not Houston and even Iowa State, who I think is going to be a tough out in any tournament, just
Yeah.
because the
defense,
beat the hell out of you every single game.
Yeah.
But they dare you to call the whistle, but blow the whistle rather. Which of these teams do you think will make more noise come tournament season?
I think Baylor can mess around and get to the Sweet 16 if they get the right kind of draw because they can score.
They're either
so well.
around a 32 team or an Elite 8 team, and I don't know where they are yet.
Yeah. I think Kansas, if McCullough is back and if they get anything, and look, remember a couple years ago, they got Remy Martin was a big transfer that they expected to have a huge part in that team, and really did not until the Big 12 tournament. Like it took him that whole year to understand what Bill Self wanted out of him, and then they don't win the NCAA tournament without Remy Martin. So that guy this year needs to be Nick Timberlake, where he gives them something consistently. And he had a good game the other day. He scored 11 points, and that was, and he had to start because McCullough's going to be out for the rest of the regular season. So it looks like McCullough's going to be out for the rest of the regular season. If you listen to what Bill Self is kind of saying, like, we've got 3-4 games left. Like, we've got to get him a whole week of practice. Like, I don't think you're going to see him maybe even the conference tournament either, because Kansas, not that they've never cared about it, it just comes so easily to them.
Yeah.
They go to Kansas City, they play they're playing home games, so they get a little boost. But if they get upset, like, they're like, oh, darn. Like,
we didn't get another trophy.
two extra days off, we're fine. Like, they'll
still get a great seed no matter what.
Yeah, they're going to be a 2 seed more than likely if they finish how they've kind of been. So they're not going to be a 1 seed, and that's because they have no bench. But if they can get anything from Nick Timberlake off the bench and still play the kind of defense that they're capable of playing, when you've got Dickinson, McCullough, Furphy, the starting 5 they have is as good as anybody's starting 5. Like, the reason they've lost games in the Big 12 is they're not good in the road, and you really need your bench on the road because, you got to have something different to take people out of it. And 2, they made bad personnel decisions in the offseason with Arterio Morris, and, the plan kind of went out the window. So they shouldn't have brought him in, but, they could, again, if it's just about the starting 5, I don't think there's a better starting 5 than Kansas really anywhere. Harris, Adams, Dickinson, Furphy, and McCullough, but then it's the bench that'll get you. That's what Houston can do. Watching Houston against Baylor the other day, at no point did they miss a beat when somebody was out of the game. I've seen Houston in person twice now, once in Allen Fieldhouse and once in Waco, and even though they got blown out by Kansas at Allen Fieldhouse, they actually played a good game. Kansas just played their best game of the year and didn't miss shots. Like, I never felt Houston missed a beat even then. Like, I didn't feel like they were, okay, all right, this guy's a little cold right now. We'll put somebody else in, give him 3-4 minutes, and then, all right, well, that's fine. Like, nothing changed. Houston has no liabilities. And that's where you win in the tournament. Like, if you look at,
well, when they were getting the kind of minutes that and he's a decent player, but he's 9.7 rebounds. But when they were getting that amount of production out of like Roberts early on in that Baylor game, I was like, oh, this might be over.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's a big guy, actually clean native, but like he's a big guy,
shoved around Misi.
But he was shoving around Misi like Misi isn't 5 inches taller than him. And just doing like jump hooks and stuff over. I was like, oh, this might be done. Like this might be done early. So if they can get any production out of their post players too, because they got that rotation of guards. But like if they can get any production out of their post players, I think they'll go a long way. I was going to add just for our fans in the chat, BYU, if they all of a sudden can't miss threes,
they're tough.
Yeah,
they're tough,
and their fans travel to anywhere. So if they, especially if they get a West Coast seed or something like that,
well, they could. I mean, like they're probably not going to be lucky enough to wind up in that Salt Lake regional, but you never know. Like
they could. Again, they could be out in the round of 32. I don't see them getting upset in like the first round or anything like that. But they also could just make like a Kansas State run last year where they're just hitting everything, and all of a sudden, I don't know if they had they had one standout player, but like, I don't know if that guy that was hitting, I'm blanking on his name, forgive me. Their center that was hitting 23s.
Ali Khalifa?
Khalifa, was hitting, he had shot like 29% from 3 all year, and then he hit 5 threes against Baylor. If they can do that, if they can replicate that kind of production, you have like a Jimmer Fredette run to make a callback.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I remember that run being like way longer. I think they only made it to the Sweet 16, if I remember correctly.
I think you think it's way longer because Jimmer
he had like 40 points.
Yeah, he was just amazing. Like, and then he's been all over the world playing in every single league, scoring 40 points a game.
Right.
And then being like the 8th guy off an NBA bench when he.
Oh yeah, he scored like 100 points in the Chinese league, and then he can't sniff an NBA floor.
Yeah, because he's not fast.
No,
he's just not fast. Like, Oh, this is my life. We got to go to the next topic. But when you watch an NBA game compared to like a college game, like the grace at which they inbound the ball after a made basket and get to center court makes it seem like the court is smaller. Yeah. When you know it's not, it's the same court. You know what I'm talking about, Garrett? Like, watch the Lakers inbound a pass. Yeah. And like LeBron take 3 steps and he's at center court. Like, well, they didn't throw it that far. He was like a foot away. Like, it's 3 steps. Like, how tall and athletic are you?
Also, like, just not I mean, they do it, but like not fumbling the ball out of bounds, like on an inbound, like or whatever, like bricks off their hands or whatever. That just doesn't.
Yeah, they're so like in my opinion, the NBA players are the best athletes in the world because there's not like even some of the soccer guys that are unbelievable, like the Alond and all those guys, but like they're unreal athletes. But when you can be 6'10" and run a 4.5 and jump and not trip over your own feet as you gracefully cross center court in a second and a half. Yeah. Like
what did CJ Stroud say is that all football players want to be NBA players and all NBA players want those baseball contracts?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The NBA like contracts aren't anything to sneeze at though. No. I remember being in the Cowboys locker room with Rico Gathers when he was there and people making fun of him for not just being the 11th guy on an NBA roster because of some of the contracts that had come in. It's like, what are you doing here, man?
Royce O'Neal has been traded now for like 5 first-round picks in his career. He's like the 7th man on any NBA team at any point.
He's
starting
a very good player. Yeah,
he's a decent player. Now been traded 1,000 times. Nobody like if you're not a Baylor fan or like a hardcore NBA fan, you're not going to know who Royce O'Neal's name is. But I will say this, the 7th man on a bench, you know what they call those people? Multi-millionaires.
Exactly. Yes. And they don't fly commercial.
No.
Unless they absolutely have to. And they certainly don't fly coach. When we come back, let's look ahead to next year. Which teams nationwide, we'll do that. We'll go through like one of those way too early top 25s and say who is going to overperform their expectations right now. Some teams we've thought about, some teams like, again, this is going to happen more often than not now because the transfer portal exists and it's a thing. And there's going to be people that you're like, oh, well, he didn't work out at Georgia. And then all of a sudden he goes to Arkansas and Arkansas is good all of a sudden because it's just a right fit. It's how the world works now. We'll talk about that next. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back, Paul Catalina and Royden Ogletree. We'll talk a little football for the next couple of segments because this is America and that's what we do.
Yeah.
But way too early top 25s for next year. We'll just use ESPN's because that's easy.
Worldwide leader.
Yes, the worldwide leader in sports. All right, so throw out a team, Royden, that you think might be good next year. I'll tell you where they're ranked, and we will say whether they were overperform their ranking or underperform it.
Georgia.
Georgia will probably stay right about where they are at number 1.
Yeah.
So that might be.
I'm good at this.
Yeah. Then like you can't go any higher, so they might underperform
Yeah.
and still be number 1.
Right.
But with all that they have coming back, and look, so here's what I will say about what I did see of the Orange Bowl, and I watched the first half of it in the Nashville airport while I cried into my hot chocolate.
Oh yeah, I gotcha.
Knowing that Florida State quit that game and none of the starters were playing. But Georgia and Kirby Smart made it the tact of like, let's send a message to the rest of the country.
We don't belong here either.
That we don't belong here either. And this is what we're, if you thought because we lost to Alabama that this is the end of our run, oh no. So we don't feel.
We got a show for you.
Yeah, so we're going to put this on. And while they are losing 2 offensive weapons to me that are huge in Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, they'll just replace that. Like
All-time names, by the way.
Yeah. Bowers and McConkey also were injured for good stretches of the year last year, and Georgia only lost 1 game.
Did Bowers? He had like Liz Frank surgery or something, right?
Yeah, he came back in the middle, after he hurt his foot in the middle of the year.
He had surgery on his ankle or his foot. I can't remember. I think it was ankle. And then was just like, all right, I'll be back in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
What?
So, yeah. No, he's a freak. I mean, he's an absolute freak, especially at the tight end position. You do so many different things. So, yeah, they'll miss like maybe the best route runner in the country in Ladd McConkey and the freakish tight end. But it's going to be one of those things that like they'll figure out in 5 minutes.
I think people are like up and down on Brock Bowers.
I'm not.
I think he's great, man.
I'm not. I think the only thing that's going to slow Brock Bowers down outside of health, which is like something you have to say about football players and athletes in general, is going to a team that has no idea how to use them.
Wait, did I say Brock Bowers?
You mean Ladd McConkey?
No, I'm not up and down on Brock Bowers. That was the wrong name. I was thinking Carson Beck for some reason.
Carson Beck.
Also,
look,
no,
I think
the person that's still on the Georgia team.
But that's why he's
Brock Bowers is going to be a top 15 pick, and I really want him to be on the Texans. Thank you very much. But yeah,
make him at 23. We'll talk about that in the NFL draft rapid fire segment. But 23. He's not.
He's not. He's
not getting.
He might be a top 10 player.
So if he does, then I think they'll do that.
Yeah. Sorry, Carson Beck, the
Carson
quarterback.
Beck. I think that's one of the reasons why he's back. That, and I'm sure a pretty hefty NIL signing bonus, to come back. But he was going to be at best the 5th or 6th quarterback taken this year. So
I'm just so interested.
He and Quinn Ewers are in the same boat to me, where they've proven enough to be like these guys are salty, but they need one more year to be like they could be the guys.
And they're still young. They're still young players too. Like Quinn Ewers, I think just turned 21 or something like that. Like, but. And I don't think Carson Beck's that old either. Might have just turned 21.
I think they're the same age.
Same class. I know people are up and down on him.
Yeah.
I liked what he showed at the end of the year, and he can really hum it. So I just, I think he takes that next step and really shows out. I don't think he's going to have like Matthew Stafford level stats at Georgia.
Maybe not. But look, here are their transfers, by the way. Trevor Etienne from Florida, who was the most underutilized player in the country last year. Florida should have just built the offense around him and said
him and Pearsall.
Hopefully build the whole plan.
Him and Pearsall should have been kind of the Florida offense last year, and they would at least have made a bowl game.
Yep.
They would at least made a bowl game and not been 5-7. But London Humphreys from Vanderbilt, who's really well thought of. Colby Young, a big receiver from Miami, who's not played with a quarterback in the last couple of years. And then Michael Jackson III at USC. Ben Urasek from Stanford as a tight end. So they filled the holes I mentioned of McConkey. And again, they had to fill, it's not just McConkey and Bowers. Rosemary Saint and Dominic Lovett are gone too. And those guys were big parts of their offense, just not going to be first or second round picks like the other two will.
Right.
But here they are, looking in the face with the best running back in the country that nobody talks about in Trevor Etienne because he was on a 5-7 team. One of their arch rivals too. So you want to talk about what they just did to Florida? Florida's already laying on the street, bloodied and beaten, and they just came up and ripped out a kidney. They're just trap. Hey, who's the best player?
Organ donor, right?
Yeah. Who's the best? Who's the one player that you would say like you could have anybody else on a roster but this guy? And they're like Trevor Etienne, and they're like, oh. Yeah,
Florida's feeling
now.
like Billy Bean in Moneyball, where he's like, we're organ donors for the rich.
Yeah, they are. Yes, that's what's happening right now. And then the sad part about Florida is like, we have money. What do you? Where? You know, like, where's it? This is all not working. But let's go pick a team that's would not be maybe in the top 5 to 8 teams.
Well, let's see. I do. Okay, can we talk about your LSU Tigers?
Yes, let's talk about Air Garrett's LSU Tigers.
Who y'all going to replace all these dudes with?
So, yeah, that's a great question. The running back room is kind of in shambles right now, especially since you had somebody got a murder case going on. Yeah. So you lost your running back there. The secondary is one where there's a grand concern because I think, Paul, I believe we had Mike Scarborough on during the season. He was talking about traditionally how the state of Louisiana always have DBs and everything, and there just hasn't been that there. So that's a concern. You're starting to see LSU come into Texas more and recruit to pick up some of the pieces that they aren't producing in Louisiana, or they're getting picked off from Georgia and Alabama, per se. But I think they're going to be okay. Garrett Nussmeier, I'm still kind of I'm excited for him because he's done things right. I would say right, quote unquote, but he went to a program. He stuck with that program. Even when you brought in Jaden Daniels, he didn't leave and hit the portal. He sat there. So I'm interested to see what you can do with him. But you have to replace so much talent. You bring Lacey back. He should be your number 1 wide receiver next year. But you can't just replace Thomas and Neighbors. So it's going to be an adjustment with them. Then the news came out yesterday with Harold Perkins. They're trying to put him is an outside linebacker in particular, which he struggled with. I don't like that. I think he's kind of like a honey badger or Micah Parsons. You just put him on the field and cut him loose. But with Brent Baker coming in as your defensive coordinator, it's going to be interesting to see how he could use him. But yeah, man, it's going to be interesting. I'm not sure what my expectations are for him this season.
Well, right now ESPN, if I were looking at the same article, had them at like 12. And I could see them
right.
Yeah, and I could see them dropping from there. If I'm just being completely honest, you're relying on a quarterback from Ohio State. J.K. Johnson is what they listed here. Is like he played one game I think last year, and you're relying on him to be healthy. And my whole impetus for asking is just I've been looking at draft stuff, and the amount of receiver production that they are losing, and not to mention the Heisman winner who set all kinds of records, but the amount of just pure receiver production that you're losing from 2 guys is nuts. I think between them, they had like 3,000 yards and 40 touchdowns.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so on the Paxton threw us out. Okay, we've got a couple from the chat room. All right. Tennessee, ranked by this poll.
16.
At 16. Well, I mean, we're going to see Nico Amaliava.
Yep.
And that's going to be interesting. They have a lot of playmakers coming back. Brew McCoy's back. Squirrel White's back. They got a good offensive line. They picked up Zalance Hurd in the portal from LSU. I can see them being a little bit better than that. But then again, you got to look at, let me tell you what their schedule is. Because, look, here's the other thing you got to look at in the SEC about when you're talking about teams and overperforming number 16 in the country. Like, these schedules are going to be...
Yeah, the divisions are gone. So that's something that's
divisions are gone, so you can't really rely on that. And, look, they've got NC State in a neutral site game in Charlotte early on, and that's going to be a tough game. NC State is good. Like, they're good.
Consistently.
Yeah, they're good. At Oklahoma, they've got Alabama at home. They're at Georgia. So their schedule's not really all that tough. I mean, Arkansas, Florida.
UTEP and Vanderbilt to round out the year.
Yeah. Kentucky, Mississippi State. Kentucky should be good, but I'm not ready to just be like, oh, yeah, they're going to. But this should be a team. I think that's probably about right. Maybe a little overperform. If they can beat Alabama at home, because Alabama's a team we will not know about until this new thing is done here with Kalen DeBoer and we see it, especially Alabama in particular, in the second wave of the transfer portal that's coming, is going to be interesting because that move happened so late. They were going to lose more guys than they were going to gain. And then there's going to be guys who are, I think two schools are going to benefit the most. And one of them did make a coaching change and one of them did. I think LSU is going to really benefit from the second portal window because they're going to have to go out and be like, we need one wide receiver and we need at least two running backs. And so there's going to be people that are going to be like, you mean LSU does?
Yeah.
LSU does? Oh, okay. I'll go there. I'll go there. And then Alabama is just going to be able to kind of like send out the list to the transfer portal of like, hey guys, I know that Nick Saban is here, but would you like to leave your school that isn't Alabama to come to Alabama?
Right.
And they'll be like, yes, I
sounds
would.
fine and well, thank
What?
you.
Does it hold that still?
I think
For a
depends
minute
on the
it will.
schools. It does not hold it like what Alabama is going to lose is that guys were going to take less NIL and they were going to do less or they were going to compete maybe more because they were going to play for Nick Saban.
Right.
That's gone.
Yeah.
Kalen DeBoer has to prove that, but they're still Alabama and they still have Jalen Milroe and they still have some good players. But yeah, I mean,
they're going to have to finally really cut the checks.
Yeah.
I mean, not that they haven't been doing that, but
now they're not going to there's not going to be any hometown discount anymore.
the price of the brick is going up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. They're gonna do Wendy's surge pricing.
There you go.
No, I just
Like,
think,
hey, listen, you guys wanted this Baconator, but it's 6:30 p.m. It's $3 extra. So if you want substandard tripe, you find your way to McDonald's.
Exactly. You know what was interesting about this top 25? That Oklahoma State ranked 17th. Oklahoma, nowhere to be found in this early on top 25.
Yeah.
Kansas State and Kansas both ranked in this early top 25 from ESPN.
Paxton says Missouri. Missouri returns a quarterback in Brady Cook. They return a coach who I'm big on. Oklahoma's 14th, by the way.
Oh, did I miss that?
Yeah, I think you missed it. Yeah, Oklahoma's 14th.
Oh, that was wish casting on my part. Sorry.
Yeah, Missouri, I don't see here in this particular top 25, even after they're 7th. They are 7th. And I think they might go under that. I think they'll be really good, but they're losing. Both their starting cornerbacks are really good. Their defensive coordinator is gone. But they do add Marcus Carroll to replace Cody Schrader, who was great this year. So 7th is a little high for me on Mizzou.
They're not finishing 7th.
They're not finishing 7th. I think they'll be a good team, but I don't think they're finishing 7th.
Not to mention, aren't they getting audited?
Mizzou?
Or isn't there
No, they
some
got an influx of money. They got a big NIL donorship.
Yeah, they got a
thing.
big.
No, they're why the thing that I text you that their athletic director left.
Yeah. Well, because she's going to Arizona.
So she's going to Arizona,
And
who's currently being
so
audited.
she's going to Arizona.
But why
now
leave Missouri?
She's an Arizona alum.
They're $100 million in debt.
177 to be exact.
But if you could fix it, what can that do for your resume?
Yeah. So,
I don't know, man.
yeah. But look, and now I say this. Here's their schedule: is Murray State, Buffalo, Boston College, Vanderbilt, at A&M, at UMass, Auburn, at Bama, Oklahoma at home, at South Carolina, at Mississippi State, and Arkansas. I take it back.
That's doable.
I like that,
They
actually.
can finish 7th. They can finish 7th with that schedule because, look, let's just say that their losses are to Alabama and Oklahoma, and they beat A&M at Kyle Field, something I'm not so sure that they'll do. And this is not my A&M father Homer glasses here. I truly believe A&M will be a much better team this year.
They better be.
They better be. But they will be a much better team this year for excising the cancer that was Jimbo Fisher in that organization. And that Mike Elko will have them playing a much more efficient style of ball. Now, whether that means contending in the SEC, I don't. But I do think that they'll be better and they'll win games that they should win more often than they did under Jimbo because they're not going to play an antiquated, myopic style of football.
I still think even in the transfer portal era, I do think that it still takes a year.
Yeah,
I always think that.
But look, they were not good last year.
True.
So I think they will be better, and they have talent on their roster that they even kept. Like, and look, he brought in. This is what I will tell you about their roster. Mm-hmm. It'll be an interesting test. Mike Elko, knowing that if he does well, because he's seen it before, if A&M does well, they'll be able to get blue chip prospects all over the place, and they still get blue chip prospects, just not as many as the other guys in their league do. So they still get blue chip prospects because of what they're able to offer. He went out, if you look at what they did in the transfer portal, which is add like 24 guys, and they lost Walter Nolan and Evan Stewart and some really good players, which you really wish they hadn't if you're A&M. But he didn't go out and like replace Walter Nolan with like the second or third best version of that. He went out and replaced guys with worker bees because he's trying to change the culture there.
Yeah.
And I think he'll be successful in that because that's what he does. So if they've got the old school wrecking crew kind of attitude there, then they'll be better than this team that all of a sudden thought that College Station is Vegas. Like, that's...
It also helps when you have, like, a generational talent in Torian York that you can build around defensively.
Yeah, so you've got him, like, yes, you've got that. Like, Torian York is like, and linebacker is like, dude. There's certain schools, like, when Nebraska gets that linebacker again, when A&M has that linebacker again, linebacker's the position that A&M was always able to brag about.
Yeah.
You know, like, throughout their glory years, like, R.C. Slocum just had, like, guy after guy after guy after guy after guy that were, like, you know, William Thomas and Marcus Buckley and Dat Wynn and just like Quentin Coriat, you know, all these guys who were just lethal linebackers. And then lately it's been like, you know, they've got Edgerrin Cooper this year is really good. I will say that.
The problem is really like good. With linebacker is like you're it's with, I guess, with any position, but like, you know, when you don't have a, like even a decent one, it's so obvious. It's just like, oh, the middle of the field's wide open. That's crazy. How did that happen?
It is. So I think A&M will be better. Like, they're ranked 25th. And when I say I think they'll be better than that, like, I think they'll be 20th. You know, like, if everything goes right, they're going to finish 20th.
Is there a team in the Big 12 that, like, do you think takes the leap? Because right now I think Oklahoma State's the top. Are they the top ranked team in the Big 12?
No, Kansas State.
Kansas State,
I think. Well, maybe it might be Oklahoma State in this poll, but Vegas thinks Kansas State is the one that's most likely to do. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Utah. Utah, Arizona.
Oh, we forgot.
There's new teams. Utah, I have no idea what to think about Utah, and I'll only know what to think about them when I see how well Cam Rising's back. So when we see how
going for that doctorate, baby.
When we see how well Cam Rising can move, and if he's still Cam Rising or if he's the ghost of Cam Rising, like that's going to be the tell on Utah there. Oh my God, we're almost out of time. This went long. So Arizona will be interesting with a coaching change, where they got a really good quarterback. Oklahoma State, again, like I trust Gundy.
I don't.
I trust Gundy. I don't trust the quarterback. Gundy will have that team efficient, but I don't know if they're going to. I just don't think they're going to win the league.
Alan Bowman is back for a 7th season.
Yes. And see, here's my
brother
thing.
in Christ. Go get a job.
Here's my thing on that. If you have to go get a 7th-year quarterback, things are not that good for you.
No, look at BYU.
Yeah, that's my belief. Like, if BYU's got Gary Bohannon, love the kid, but like, you know, if you're not,
something in my bones tells me it's going to work.
If you're not in the NFL by what would be your 7th year in college, you're just not going to be a professional quarterback.
Well, I mean, how old was
and not everybody is, but you're just not going to win conference titles. Just not.
How old were Bo Nix and?
They're like, look, this was the year of the.
They were playing in the Obama administration.
Yeah, this is like the year of the 6th-year guys. And that's because that COVID year.
Yeah.
But, like, if you're, like, coming back and applying for a 7th year after all that.
Who's that Miami tight end that's, like, on 9 seasons?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Again, not going to help Miami win a game.
No.
Not going to help Miami win a game. He's never helped anybody win a game. Why is he going to start 9 years after he's eligible?
Chilling.
Yeah. All right, NFL draft rapid fire. We'll just do a quick one. The Houston Texans pick at 23rd.
Yeah.
They pick at 23rd. Yeah, I know you're very upset that they didn't send the they sent their pick or the whatever it was. Like,
they sent their pick. Well, it's like in the time, real quick, in the time that, like, at the time, they sent their first-round pick this year to Arizona to pick Will Anderson. Like, they jumped, 15 spots to pick Will Anderson.
But they still had the Browns pick.
But everybody's like, why wouldn't you just trade the Browns pick? It's also a first-round pick.
Yeah.
They weren't asking for that pick for next year.
Yeah.
And because everybody thought it was going to be a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
I did too. I thought it was going to be, but turns out now Arizona's pick is worse than what the Browns pick actually is. Yeah. So now they get to pick higher than Arizona, which is like a godsend. But anyway.
Yeah, but it worked out. But at 23, this is a team that is, look, they've got the quarterback finally. Like, honestly, and I know that, like, they've had good runs with Matt Schaub or whatever in the past.
Pro Bowler, Matt Schaub led the league in passing 1 year.
But let's be honest. This is the first time that they've had a quarterback where the city of Houston is like, maybe this is our guy.
It was Deshaun Watson, but we just don't want to, like.
Well, I mean, but, like, even then, like.
Shame.
It went downhill so fast after that, like. Just at the point where they're like, oh, hey, Deshaun Watson.
You had a 24-point lead on Kansas City, and then all of a sudden, from that point on, it's been cursed. Anyway.
And Deshaun Watson has been too.
Yep.
He's not hardly played for the Browns, really.
Oh, darn.
You seem so sad.
Oh, darn.
But C.J. Stroud has worked out for them.
Yes.
Now, I think there are certain areas that they need to help C.J. Stroud in.
Yep.
And focus on those early on. Again, they're in a position, best player available at 23, no matter what position, unless it's quarterback. Like, they could take a wide receiver, although I think they're better off at that than most people realize.
Yeah.
They could take a tight end, although if they bring back Dalton Schultz, they're better off at that position than most people realize.
Yeah.
I think offensive line or defensive line at 23, to me, is the sweet spot for if that best player available is a lineman, an end or a tackle, or, a tackle or a guard. Or Jackson Powers Johnson, who I think is going to be the best offensive lineman.
I want Cooper DeJean.
Oh, yeah.
To be completely honest with you, I think he's like quietly the best cornerback in the draft.
Well, he's going to be safety, so he's going to be kind of
I feel like that's short-sighted.
Well, I mean, he's kind of positionless, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be
I see a lot of Patrick Peterson in the guy.
Yeah.
Or not Peterson.
From the LSU, Patrick Peterson?
Yeah, Patrick Peterson. There's Patrick Patterson is the Kentucky basketball player.
Yeah.
Anyway, I see a lot of Patrick Peterson in the guy just for the way he returns punts and everything too. But if not, if
you have him and
Stingley
and Petrie in that secondary, that's very young.
Petrie's got to step up. He was quietly kind of bad last year, and nobody really wants to. Like, he was missing tackles and broken coverage and stuff. He wasn't really as great as he was his rookie season. But I think it would be short-sighted, though, to replace him with DeJean in that position. But I think, like if you have him and Stingley, I think it goes a long way. But Murphy from Texas seems like a really a need, because they have no defensive lineman besides Anderson that they have re-signed. Really, offensive tackle or guard. I think it's tough because they had so many injuries, and they made it look okay because C.J. Stroud is really good, but they had so many injuries, and they paid a bunch of guys to be on that offensive line, and they just got injured.
Yeah.
So maybe you want to take some.
I would say interior, I think the tackles, Howard and Tunsil, are fine.
Yeah.
I think that your interior line is where you need to look.
Yeah, Shaq Mason, but you could, I don't know. You took 2 centers last year, too.
Yeah.
I would go defensive line, but the real mock that I saw that I was like, it tickled my fancy was the second leading receiver from
Brian
LSU. Brian Thomas. And I was like, you know what? You have my attention. I was like,
I'll tell you,
sure.
Late in the draft, not late in the draft, but later, they need to draft a running back. They need to draft a running back.
I love Dameon Pierce, but he cannot read. He cannot cut.
Look, I'll tell you, Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson, one of those dudes. Brooks is kind of a risk because he's not going to be ready until training camp. But one of those dudes, I would even say
sign Saquon Barkley. Let's get it moving.
I don't think they're going to do that. Yeah. But I think one of those dudes like that, I think Will Shipley would be great in Bobby Slowick's offense. I think that Braylon Allen would be really good in that offense. So I think they need to look at
the running back from Missouri, from Michigan that scored 1,000 touchdowns.
Blake Corum. Oh, yeah. He'd be fantastic for them. I think one of those guys, they need to do that for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. I just saw the Murphy thing, or not Murphy. Sorry, Thomas thing, and I was like, this guy's sick. It's like, that would be awesome.
Yeah, fantastic route runner, really fast, catches everything they throw at him.
Yeah, he's 6'4", he runs like a 4.3. It's sick.
Yeah. So if you have him and Nico Collins on the outside and Tank Dell and Xavier Hutchinson on the inside.
Score 1,000 points a game. We probably wouldn't be able to stop anybody, but whatever.
They have Xavier Hutchinson from Iowa State, who was like their 4th or 5th wide receiver last year.
Underused.
Let's see how he develops in year 2, because I think he's quite the player. We'll see. So I think the future is bright for your Texans.
One could only hope. As a Texans fan, it's wait to find out, though.
I'll tell you, there's 2 teams, and we'll talk about them tomorrow a little bit. I think this will be one. 2 teams that are in a rebuild, but they're good, that don't know they're in a rebuild. That's the tease, I will say.
Ooh.
2 teams that don't, or their fans may not realize they're in a rebuild, or they may have to. But they won't. One of them will not have the common decency to be bad enough to be rebuilt, and Garrett knows exactly what I'm talking about right now. And the other one has such salary cap issues that you're going to see a completely different version of them next year. We'll talk about it tomorrow when Steven Simcox is here. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports. Don't know what's coming up in the show today yet, because I have not talked to Smokey yet.
Yeah, I'm still waiting to.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Smokey yet today, but I'm sure it'll be good, because that's what we do, and that's what he does.
Good content here, baby.
Yes, this is 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications